Independent or just isolated. Midlife has a way of exposing the cracks in our do-it-all-myself myth. From burnout disguised as strength to Alexa quietly running our households, and ChatGPT hands us magical answers to all of our curiosities. Join us as we rethink what independence really means in the age of AI and whether it's actually serving us or just leaving us tired and alone with a bloated Amazon cart.
Hey, I'm Morgan.
I'm Chris. Welcome to the Midlife Mud,
where we promise to bring the real shit, all the grit, and pretty much zero clue about how to deal with this crazy phase of life.
And by the way, because this is all about feeling less alone, what we want most is to connect with you.
Absolutely. So take a few seconds and visit themidlifemud.com and join our community.
And you'll stay up to date on all the dirt.
And even better, become a part of the conversation.
We can't wait to see you there. All right. Tighten those boots and let's get muddy.
When I was in middle school, I was in my language arts class. We had this English teacher that was, in my opinion, even today, just had no business teaching that class. And on top of that, he was kind of a pushover. There was one day in class that he was asking us to do something that clearly we as seventh graders did not want to do. And a group of us decided that we were going to hold up a strike sign, indicating that we had no intention of doing what he was asking. Now, for the record, that's not something that I would typically do, but I held up that sign and every one of us got detentions. And so I remember going home and having to tell mom and dad. I explained myself. Well, this is what I think, and I don't agree with blah, blah, blah. And mom said, well, you should write a letter to the principal explaining why you did it, and we'll sign it. So I wrote out this long, thought-out letter, which basically said I didn't agree with what he was asking us to do, and mom and dad signed it, and I turned it into the principal. Well, then dad was called in to the principal, and what he did, and he has told me this since, on purpose, he went in to kind of throw her off kilter and said, I just want to start by saying I really appreciate that this school is teaching the students how to think for themselves. And I think that rendered her a little bit speechless. And all in all, you know, I served my detention and then it was water under the bridge. But I think back to that now, and I'm sure that I thought holding up that strike sign was like a sign of my independence. That is something that I know in our lives, that was a value that was instilled in us. And it's interesting because I think it's a double-sided coin.
For sure. And the hilarious thing is that while we were instilled with individualism, I feel like mom and dad also lean heavily into calling someone to help them fix problems. There's like this paradoxical thing that goes on with individualism, and I don't think that's unique to our parents.
No, not at all. But there is sort of this, at least in the United States, we are probably the most individualistic country in the world. It is a core philosophy in our country.
There's something alluring about it.
There is. And I think we should make the distinction, too, between individualism and independence. And they can be very similar, but we should tease that out just a little bit. Individualism being more of the philosophy of appreciating your uniqueness as an individual. There's an emphasis on the person and what makes them distinct. There can be an element of independence in that. Independence on its own is really just the capacity for self-governance.
Well, the choice that's happening in individualism is choosing self-expression over a collective.
Mm-hmm.
And we're obsessed with that culturally.
We're obsessed with it.
Yeah, we love the one that won. Apple just came out with a new movie with Denzel Washington. I haven't watched the whole thing, but you only need to watch the first 30 seconds to see what we're talking about. He lives in this big-ass penthouse overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge that's probably worth $20 million if you were to buy it, and he's just living the dream.
Where does this come from? Why are we like this? Why is our country in particular like this? And I don't know that we really know the answer to that, but there was an article in American Psychologist Journal in 2010 that kind of made a theory about this. In the 18th and the 19th century, when people were pushing west and kind of exploring the western frontier, right?
Yeah.
There weren't as many people out in that way. And so you had to have that pull up your bootstraps, survive, push through kind of mentality, and every man for himself. I think of the movie Far and Away where he like puts the flag in the ground, this is my land. That's kind of where this individualism came from. And we've never really let go of it.
Well, it's not always bad. If you think about adventure and exploration, which this is a young country, so following that theory, we're built on those things.
Right.
It does take individualism to do that, and there's a place for that.
And that is not to say that it's a bad thing. I think, in my personal opinion, we've swung too far to one side with it. And I say that as a person who deeply values independence and individualism, but there are definitely good things about it. The word that comes to mind for me is grit.
Yes. Is there a feedback loop there? Do someone have grit first and then that develops independence? Or do you have independence first and then through that you develop grit?
I would think there's a little bit of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of growth and a lot of learning mentality that comes out of individualism. I think about learning new things that I don't know how to do. That's important.
There's something different about doing that on your own versus completely assisted. I think about the way that I parent my kids. I'm not saying, hey, go figure it out yourself. I'm not going to help you. But I am giving them the opportunity most of the time to try to figure it out themselves first. If someone's struggling in a class at school, we might have a conversation about, hey, I can see that you're struggling. Your grades are slipping. What's going on? And then it's a matter of, okay, what can you do about it? What can you do about it? Not, I'm going to email your teacher. I'm going to do this. I really try to let them advocate for themselves, figure out a solution for themselves. And sometimes that means they end up with a D in the class. But I'm a believer in fostering that kind of independence because then they can really see cause and effect, the consequences. I just saw a little reel yesterday that said something about kids learn how to make good decisions by making decisions.
Yes.
Not by following directions.
We have an emerging high schooler this year. He has a world history teacher, and I really like this guy's philosophy. I have not met him, but he sent a letter home describing basically that he wants the kids to think, and he's taking history and he's taking historical events, and he's presenting them with different versions of it, and he's asking them to think about it and to compare it and contrast it. Now, this is very hard for the emerging high schooler because his personality is more like an engineer. I want it to be a right answer.
It's black and white.
It's very black and white. And so we sit together and he really struggles. And I tell him all the time, there's not a right or wrong here. This is about exploring what you think. Not just going with the group answer. The right answer is 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. And some personalities embrace that much easier than others, but it's a valuable skill in life.
Yes, because without that, then what happens?
Right.
And I think that's part of what makes our country so innovative. That's one of the great things about our country. And yet, again, it can swing a little too far.
It can go a little too far. I'm thinking of Back to the Future, the crazy professor. Like, that might be a little too far.
Yeah. Yeah. But we don't want to discount, I think, is what we're saying, that it is a strong value. It is an important one. There are some really great things about it.
There's an interesting relationship. Having a strong sense of individualism can lend itself to being a stronger partner, a stronger father, a stronger team leader, in all these different roles. Now, it doesn't always, but it can.
In what way?
Well, it's about knowing when to shift, having the resilience to learn new things, lean into new things, not be afraid of doing those alone, but then inviting others into that. And that's what doesn't always happen.
Yeah, you're saying shift from independence into
more of a collective.
Yes, that's where we've strayed a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and there was someone talking about how in ancient times, religion was at the heart of everything that everyone did, whatever kind of religion that was. And that what that did was sort of humble a person, put them in their place, sort of let them know that they were not the master of their own fate, which is very different than the way that we see ourselves now. We feel very responsible for everything we do. If we're a success because we made ourselves a success. And people who are poor, we look at them and think they're poor because they have no ambition. We're completely discounting the fact that there are totally different circumstances people are born into.
Mm-hmm.
There are totally different things you have to work with. So I think thinking that way can be very dangerous. The suicide rate, that is something that's skyrocketing. And it's because a lot of us don't have the ability to make the distinction between bad circumstances and bad circumstances that are our fault. We can't take responsibility for all that stuff either way.
Yes.
That's a lot of pressure.
One of the things that religion can do is take us to a place where we're not at the center of it anymore.
Right.
For me, that's less about formal religion. I mean, I use nature that way.
Mm-hmm.
Just go outside and stand at the ocean or in the mountains and look around. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just a little fuckstick. Like,
Or you look at that picture that's the farthest away picture of the planet Earth that exists, and it's a little speck of dust.
and that's the whole Earth.
That's
I
the
mean,
whole Earth.
let's put it in context.
Yeah, so there's something freeing about that.
I find a lot of peace in realizing that I am small and there is so much, there's a bigger world going on around me that I will never understand. I don't have the capacity to understand it. And that does take pressure off of me when I realize that. Like, I didn't control every single thing that got me to where I am. I did some of it, you know?
It's a dance.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as like I participate in it. It's not that I'm completely helpless, but it's not just me. And I will never try to take full credit for it either way. But it is reassuring when you think about, you're scrolling TikTok and you're seeing all these influencers and this curated lives and all that stuff. It's helpful to know none of that fucking matters.
Yes.
Grand scheme of things, none of that matters.
It's a distraction.
Because we really do right now, this idea of individualism has become, it's not just, I appreciate myself and my unique qualities. It has become, I have got to be the biggest and the best, and I need to set myself apart in some way. And then ironically, we fall into doing the same thing everybody else is doing. Like, you can't even distinguish anyone from the other person. They all look the same.
It's such an oxymoron. Like, I'm going to be individual and go to Sephora. Okay.
Try again. That leads into this idea of false independence. Like, are we really as independent as we are claiming to be?
So last week I did a little bit of a role switch and I took a week off from work, but I was still working at home doing all of the things, helping to cook and move kids back and forth from school and get into that whole routine. And on day 2 of school, the dishwasher breaks. Like, literally the springs that hold the door closed, sheared off. The thing is dead in the water. And this huge cortisol influx comes in, like, oh my God, we're going to die if we don't have a dishwasher. We must fix it. And she's working and I'm at home, so I feel called to duty. And in my great act of independence, I took on the responsibility of replacing the dishwasher. Immediately, within minutes, was on ChatGPT, searching up, like, find me the best dishwasher. Here's my criteria, blah, blah, blah. And within 2 hours, I was driving home with the new dishwasher that I had found through ChatGPT. Then received accolades from others. Oh, those are the greatest dishwashers and so on. Is that me acting independently?
Well, let's just start back with the fact that you felt like you needed a dishwasher that bad. Which, by the way, I totally get. I would think the same thing. But we act like we don't know how to wash dishes. You know what I mean? So that in and of itself was like, oh my God, this is an emergency. Yeah, this whole development of AI, oh my God, it's scary to me.
It is.
It's amazing and it's really scary. I think it is a threat to our individualism, to our independence. I get that it's intended to use as a tool, and it absolutely can be incredible as a tool. But your tools don't run your life. If you think of it like a hammer, you use it to hit the nail into the board. If you think of it as like, I'm going to ask this hammer what I should do with my life, that's a little scary.
That's the kind of the slippery slope that we're on, is that by using these tools, AI, it can feel like, oh, we did something really cool, but we didn't. We're taking credit for something that we're not actually doing sometimes. And I'm noticing it more and more and more. I have conversations with people, and people are using this a lot. And I'm not knocking that. I use it too. But it is scary, because at what point do we shut that off and basically take manual control?
Right. And I think when you're using it, you're taking away the struggle that happens. When you have to use your brain and actually think about something, you're naturally taking away that struggle. And we want things to be easy. We want there to be an easy button. Everything is about making life easier. But there's a cost to that. And that is that we are then dependent on the thing, because we forget how to do it. We forget how to struggle. We forget how to use our damn brains. And when I think about my kids coming up through this revolution that's happening in technology, what are they going to be like as adults? Are they going to have the ability to use their brain? We remember a little bit because we used to have to do it. Have they ever had to do it?
Well, there's this funny thing. We were going through the school stuff, and on the platform that they use, which I think is a Google-based platform for all of the classroom activities and assignments and everything, they have AI looking for AI.
Oh my God.
Yes. So they have an AI program that's looking for AI in the homework that gets turned in. I mean, it's just like, whoa.
What's that Stanley Kubrick movie? Clockwork Orange?
Clockwork Orange, yeah.
Weirdly, I feel like our independence and our innovation is leaning us into losing that independence.
While we feel as if we have independence.
Yeah, it's so
fucked up. And that's the scariness.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up. Think about all these corporate models. Think about how much we rely on Amazon or DoorDash, Uber. These are great things. I'm not knocking them. I use them all the time. But what does that say about us? If all that stuff went away tomorrow, we would be so up a creek. We would think, what do we do?
Who do I ask?
It's crazy. So there is this sense of false independence, I think, that we have. What's the danger of valuing independence too much?
There's a false sense of confidence that can come from being too independent. And on the flip of that, sometimes in life, big growth moments happen through humility. When I have had to admit that I made a wrong decision and I need to make a different decision in my life, that's been really hard for me to do at times. But those are the moments where I've grown the most. At the extreme of individualism, there can be a risk of not feeling like you're ever wrong or not taking accountability for that. Let's just talk about the impact of that on relationships. That's not connecting. It's very, alienating. So now we've built this perfect empire, but we're all alone.
It's funny. I think about one of the things Matt has said to me, my husband has said to me in the past, was that one of the qualities he appreciated the most about me was that I'm very independent.
Right.
I'm not too available ever, and I'm certainly not codependent. What's interesting now, we're 20-something years into our relationship, and I think it drives him a little bit nuts because I am emotionally not available all the time, or as available as I think he would like me to be. Because I very much have this idea, like, nope, I will take care of my own emotions. I will take care of myself. I will work through this on my own. You don't need to know. Don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain kind of thing. So it can take that toll, that what you were talking about, that sort of isolation. I can understand that.
Yeah.
From a relationship perspective.
So the other thing that I'm faced with all the time, I walk into these facilities that are assisted living facilities. Without fail, almost every time I go to these places, I have this fleeting thought of, oh my God, what would I ever do if I ended up in a place like this where I didn't just have my car keys in my pocket? I love that freedom of just being able to go. and I can make the choice where I want to go and what I want to do. And
Yeah, it begs the question in our society, as we get older and we sort of by default become more dependent, what happens in our mental state? I think for us, there's like a depression that sets in because we're no longer as physically independent as we once were. And I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to be in one of those places either. I think that's a multifaceted thing, this idea of assisted living. Because in our country, I think our assisted living sucks.
I haven't seen one that I want to be in yet, and I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah. And I think some of it is you don't want to admit that you do need someone else to help. Some of it is it's fucking expensive as hell. And some of it is it's depressing and lonely. John A. Hartford Foundation did a poll in 2021. 71% of older adults in the United States say that they are unwilling to live in a nursing home in the future. 71%, almost 3/4 of us.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. And that's a very rich topic. There's a lot there. But I do think one of the things is around independence and not losing that. And just simply that ability to make a choice about what you're going to do today, what you're going to eat, where you're going to take yourself, what your environment will be like.
I wonder, though, if there's any way for us to, is there some kind of mindset shift that we could have around independence that would be helpful for us as we age? Because if we really hold tight to this idea of independence, then to lose it is going to be crushing. And that's not serving us very well. I don't want to be depressed. And I don't want to be ignorant to the fact that I'm probably going to need help. I don't want to be that old lady that lives by herself and falls and breaks a hip when she could have been surrounded by someone to support her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It made me think of Mom. What did she do? Remember when what did she break? She broke her wrist. No, she broke her ankle.
She broke both of them.
Well, she broke something first. This was a little while ago. I think she broke her ankle or sprained it or something. And then she got up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Instead of asking people for help, she's like, this is fine. I can do this. Goes into the bathroom, works in such a way that she falls and breaks her wrist. So she had another injury because she didn't want to ask or burden anyone. There's this idea that we're burdening people. Why do we think of it that way? I wouldn't have thought that was a burden. Hey, Mom, you need help going to the bathroom? That's fine. But I can also see from her point of view, like, no, it's fine. I'll do it. I don't need help.
I think there's this correlation that a lot of us have, that being able to do it ourselves is strong and asking for help is weak. And I don't know that we always think of it in that clear of a term, but
no, it's an undercurrent though.
Like, I need to figure out how to do this.
Mm-hmm. I wonder why though. Like, why do we see that as a burden? If we're thinking like, man, on the one side of things, we want to be noticed and we want to be big and we want to take up space. And then on the flip side of it is, if it's something bad, quote bad, then, oh, no, never you mind. Just you go carry on with your life. I'm good. I'm just going to shrivel up and die in this corner.
Yeah.
What is
I
that?
don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
I remember on the point of how do we learn to look at being individual differently in a healthy sense, the idea that we always have ourselves. We can create our own reality, even in the midst of hard surroundings. It's a good point. We can. But back to the struggle, like there's an inherent struggle with doing that. And there's also this idea that in order for me to connect in that way, I have to put the other shit down. ChatGPT cannot tell me how I should feel.
You just said it. There's an inherent struggle.
Yes.
If you take away the struggle, you don't reap the rewards anymore.
So I think if there's any sort of takeaway from this discussion, this idea that independence, that we can have it and that we can also be really comfortable and never have to struggle in getting it,
is complete bullshit.
It's bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
I think maybe it's a matter of perspective shift on struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe struggle is not the bad guy. I'm not saying I want my life to be monumentally difficult.
No, me neither, but
can we at least say there's something to it?
Having some resistance in my life on a daily basis is healthy for me.
And the other perspective shift is on needing help.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go into my later life feeling like asking for help is a terrible thing. And we have a whole episode on this,
Yeah.
asking for help. I think I would rather think of it as maybe it's about knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Knowing yourself and knowing your limitations and how that can actually be a good thing. You know, when I was coming out of dental school, it was 2008, the absolute worst time in the economy to go set up your own practice. One of the pervasive thoughts throughout my class, throughout probably the whole dental world was, do not go out and join the corporate model because you are selling out if you do that. No, go forth, set up your own practice, which I did. And of course, that failed miserably. It was like me buying into that independence idea to my own detriment.
Yeah.
So how often are we doing that? You know, as we age, to our own detriment. We fall in the bathroom and break our wrist. You know?
There's something here for me about dropping the polarity of independence. We talked about this as being a choice between your own path and what you want and the collective. It doesn't need to be a choice. It can be both. And at times it's more of one and less of another.
And that's where the real wisdom, I think, comes into play, is knowing when.
Yeah.
To your point about the shift, that's the real work of knowing when to do that. All right, well.
We'll see you next time.
In the mud.
Thanks for being with us in the mud today.
If you liked this episode, do us a huge favor and subscribe to the show. This is going to make sure you never miss an episode, and it's going to help us grow our muddy community, which would mean the world to us.
See you next time in the mud.